So this is her Facebook, Mica Millar, Mica Acacia. Seek justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God, Mica. Seek justice. Yes, seek justice. Let's seek justice for Mica. She deserves justice. When terrible,
Yeah.
terrible, terrible things happen to you, you all know what I'm talking about. RPF, resting peace face. So we know that this is something terrible happened to her here. Just a second, I want to see the videos.
Yeah. It looks like, I wonder like how, because it seems like that one post had like a ton of likes on it. It might be like after the fact, like after she got
Yeah.
murdered, people went and found it. So I wonder like how many normal likes and followers she usually had. Because it's not clear. I mean, it seems like she has a pretty big social media presence. But
Yeah, I think she shares on Facebook because there's this
see here,
content.
if we get down here, like to her older stuff, there's like 21 likes as opposed to like the newer stuff, which is the stuff that people are like, that are just coming in off the internet or seeing. So
Yeah,
I'm guessing that like she had a smaller presence before, because that's one of the weird things about, um, you know, true crime cases that get into the media is like there's like this weird observer effect where like the media and everybody like following the story has this effect on all of the evidence. Like her Facebook profile has been irrevocably changed by all the new people coming in and like
right.
commenting and liking it. So it's like you have to kind of look at like an older archive, or if you can use like the Wayback Machine. I don't know if that works for Facebook, but it's like it's so hard to like kind of deconstruct like what it was of the time. I guess you could look at timestamps or something, but anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. So this is a video of her. Just a second. Let me see. Thank God for the ability and pushes we have to work. Okay, I don't want that. I want something. Okay, this is the one that I want.
So today my heart's a little heavy. I've had a lot of women that have reached out to me about situations of abuse. And I just want to tell you what a lot of people have told me lately and reminded me, because I think I forgot. I knew, but I pushed it in the back of my head just because of my situation. But you are the bride of Christ. Before anybody else's bride, male or female, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what gender you are. Abuse is abuse. And you are the bride of Christ. And my Bible says that he took all the abuse you could think of for you so that you didn't have to live that life of slavery and bondage and pain. Jesus took it all for you. So you don't have to stay in a abusive relationship, whether that's sexual, whether that's somebody forcing you to take illegal drugs or alcohol abuse or physical abuse, psychological abuse, making you think that this is all your fault, or you're a bad mom, or you're a bad wife, or you're a bad husband, or you're not giving it your all when you know you are. God hates divorce, but why? According to everybody I've asked and the scriptures that I've found, it's because it hurts people. But does abuse hurt people? How do you think God feels about that? So I want to remind you, like a bunch of people have been reminding me lately, that I'm God's bride first. And even an earthly spouse who's a good spouse, when they know that their bride is being hurt, just imagine what an earthly spouse does. What do you think your heavenly spouse does when you're the bride of Christ and he sees his bride going through abuse and hurt? What do you think he thinks about that? So, encouragement in all this is you are the bride of Christ first before anybody else's. And he's got you. And he sees you. And he loves you.
Oh my God. Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking.
The programming is just so strong. It seems like, like
She said everything that we need to know. But there's a thing that she said, like forcing you to take illegal drugs.
yeah, that I raised my eyebrows to that too. It was like, where did that come from?
And she did a face after it as if this is what's happening to her. That's how I understood it, at least.
That I took the same thing from it. It was like it was such a random example that it wouldn't be something that you would I don't yeah it struck me the same way. I was gonna
How would something do that? How would someone do that to you? Force you to take illegal drugs?
yeah, I don't
I'm
know. I was
trying to
trying to
think
think.
about physically,
Yeah.
how can it happen?
Oh, you know what? Well, maybe what her husband during his little speech said something about how her medicine was hard to find.
Mm,
So like maybe he was like telling her that some kind of illegal drug would help her. Like maybe I don't know what that would be though. Like uppers or downers. It doesn't seem like she's on either of those. Maybe she was
no.
on like prescriptions, like illegal prescriptions, because prescription stuff can be illegal, and a lot of people buy like fake prescription pills, but it just doesn't seem like she's on that quite. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
What other illegal drugs are there? I don't know.
It was a weird comment, but the way I thought about it was, if someone forces you to take illegal drugs, couldn't they force you to kill yourself? Or like okay, this is what I think, and this is just speculation, pure speculation. I think that he framed her as if she did it herself. I'm
Yep.
just trying to think about a physical way of doing it. How would he?
Well, I mean, one of the great way to do it would be to drug somebody and then, put their body in the position of like how they would actually commit suicide and then pull the trigger for it. And that was the first thing I thought of, is that like maybe he dosed her on, I don't know, fentanyl or some sort of exotic drug that would like knock her out, and then sort of just like, propped her body up in the
Yeah,
position, or, whatever. I mean, that's just one
I
possible.
think this is the only way it makes sense. I mean, the only way that we can think of, yeah, he drugged her maybe and then put the gun in her hand and then pressed with her or
Yep.
some. It seems unlikely, but it can like, yeah, I can see it happening if someone is as like him, like this guy. It wouldn't be strange for him to do that. um
Yeah, she's under. I mean, it seems like she's under some sort of coercive control by this guy, and so who knows, like what he could have talked her into. Like, just as one possible scenario, he might have done, like something like made her play Russian roulette with an empty gun a bunch in the past, but this time it was loaded. That type of shit. Where like,
yeah,
who the fuck knows? But it's like I had the exact same instinct that you did. That it just seemed like he found some way to fabricate the scene to look like
yeah,
a suicide.
yeah. He looks to me sadistic. Like, there is criminals, there is murderers, but he looks to me as a sadistic person. That's how he gives me the vibe.
Mhm.
But yeah, someone that forces someone to she said also bondage, so maybe there's part of it.
I think that was a biblical reference, like the slaves in Egypt getting out of
Oh.
bondage or something. I think so. I don't know though, because I don't know my Bible that well, because I never went to church. But that was, I think, the reference. Although maybe somebody in the comments that knows the
Yeah,
good book a little bit
please,
better might be able
someone
to.
Christian that read the Bible, tell us.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it makes sense what you said, what you just said. Yes, it makes a lot of sense, of course.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
awesome! Looks like you got a super sticker. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. Oh my God, thank you so much. That's very nice of you. Thank you.
True Crime Wifey had a question. Was Pastor anywhere near where she was found? Do we know the distance of where he was supposedly and where she was found? That's a great question. Yeah,
The
where
thing
was
is,
his
we don't
alibi?
know anything yet,
Yeah.
because the police is still investigating, and they're not, like, they didn't even
Hmm.
do what do you call this?
Autopsy or
No, like uh, conference, or like talked about it in public.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a meeting or
They
whatever.
haven't. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm waiting for this impatiently to happen.
Hmm.
What else I wanted to say about this? Did you have anything to say more about this? Let's see. What else?
Um,
Is there
I did
anything you wanna, like a video or an article or whatever you wanna share?
not. I did have one thing that I was lingering in my head, but I think I might have lost it. But that is definitely a case that I want to follow. I mean, that video is all of the video that I've seen of the pastor and also of Micah is just so compelling. I mean, you get such a sense of her. Um, but yeah, I am.
You know, when you sometimes um, are upset and you feel like there's a rock in here in your throat,
Yeah.
and it makes you uncomfortable to talk as if you are gonna cry. That's how it felt that she was experiencing. That's how it
Mm.
felt.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I know it's actually, I think what I was actually going to say is that the whole thing about like if he was putting her on drugs, this is like an extreme form of control,
Mhm.
and it's an even more extreme form would be to kill somebody because you can't possess her. I mean, that's sort of, I think, what a lot about the domestic violence is. There's a whole way of looking at it. People that study it call it the cycle of power and control,
Mm,
and it's just like you know, the domestic violence relationships are more apt to happen when there's an imbalance of power between the two parties.
mm.
So like I don't know if she worked or like what their whole financial situation is, but all that sort of stuff is like really a big part of like the whole stew of what makes domestic violence, such a thorny problem.
So I have the incident report that she did back in the day. I'm gonna share it. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
How about
That'd be
we?
great. Yeah, it's redacted. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. On 3/11/2024, HCPD officers were dispatched to Margarita DR in the Myrtle Beach area of Horry County for a report of a razor blade being placed in her tire at the location of Spring Maid. Spoke with the V1 who stated that this is the second time a razor has deflated her tire in the last week.
Weird.
V1 stated that she was at Spring Maid Pierre around 1:30. She was leaving. She heard a pop and noticed that a piece of metal was protruding from her tire. V1 metal piece was found that the metal was a tire deflation device that can be purchased online. Oh, he purchased a specific thing for it.
Wow.
V1 believes S1 may have placed or had the item placed in her tire. She had noticed strange activity and what she believes as people following or watching her.
Wow.
V1 stated that S1 has a history of similar actions against her. Evidence was not sufficient to prove that S1 is placed
Mhm.
the razor a device, nothing further. So this is the first incident.
What's really I was just thinking of there and reading that is it's sort of a typical of some, so sometimes like when domestic abusers like gaslight their victims, they make them doubt their own senses.
Yeah.
And so like it really like makes it such a thorny issue for law enforcement, because like in reading this you can see how law enforcement might think that like she was just like paranoid or whatever, any number of different scenarios. Of course, knowing what we know now, it certainly reads very differently, but there's just like a number of things in this report that just make me feel like, yeah, this sort of stuff doesn't happen and then like a murder happens later unless there's just like the biggest coincidence ever. I mean, especially this close. This was just in March, so like less than 2 months ago. So and
Yeah.
it happened before that too. So it's so typical of domestic violence shit, like screwing with each other's cars. I mean, it's like a cliche for that reason, like keying your ex-boyfriend's car, like
Yeah.
so yeah.
So the second incident was on 3/11/2024. I responded to address, which is the East Coast Honda dealership in the Myrtle Beach section of Horry County in reference to a harassment. Upon my arrival, I spoke with the victim, which advised she was just out with one of our officers getting a report for an unknown person splashing her tires. She advised the officer, helped her change her tire, and then she went to the gas station for gas, and then straight to East Coast Honda to get her tire fixed. She advised him to go away. She does not want to talk, and then when she pulled her phone out to record, he sped off. The victim then leaves and goes to East Coast Honda, and the suspect showed up again. While I was out with the victim, she received a no caller ID call, which ended up being the suspect. The suspect was advised that the victim does not want any further contact, and if he proceeds, then warrants may possibly be written up. The suspect acknowledged the advisory by saying, okay. The victim advised me that she was afraid for her life. She also advised she blocks his numbers and still gets calls and texts from him on other numbers after clearing the call and my departure. Oh my God. What a
Yeah,
man.
the one thing I was just thinking about is like the police may be like indicating that this guy is not a suspect to kind of give him like a false sense of security or something. So there may be other stuff
Mm,
happening behind the scene, you know. I mean,
right.
but because to me, like when I see this, like having worked in criminal law for a long time, I mean,
Mm,
this is like classic domestic violence abuser stuff, like all of this stuff, the caller, the harassment, it's like he's obsessed with her, and
yeah.
and it's like, if it's just typical. It's just so, yeah.
I
It
want to
just,
see him in shackles so bad.
yeah.
And if it doesn't happen, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I really want to see him. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hurting me physically seeing her. It's too much. And I have this screenshot that I want to share. So I found this on Facebook. Okay, this is him, the pastor. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. Hey, Mica. I hope you are doing well. I'm ready to be done and move on and heal and find a first lady who won't treat me the way you are. I really hope you do great things. I was willing to do anything. I even had the amazing desire to have kids since you're not on meds. Can he stop talking about her meds? And I want to apologize for the flowers and fruit. It was already paid for to last until your birthday. Feel free to give it all away. Just like a child, just like my ex-boyfriends, you break up with them and they're like, "Oh, give me my stuff back." I
Yeah.
sent that to you before I found out all about all the things that I have recently found out about you and what you've done, and you disgust me. So please, let's meet soon and be divorced and let this nightmare be over for me. For me, I'm enjoying all the Africa missions.
Oh, wow.
Ah, man.
Yes. You know what's so crazy about this
Mm,
is I have like a video idea that I've been working on in the can for a while
yeah.
that has to do with two different girls that I went to high school with.
Mm,
And they both were like the kind of people that would like advertise on Facebook that they were going over to Africa to do missions.
mm-hmm.
And around the same time as they were doing that, they both ended up getting into trouble for like stealing money. I don't want to be too specific here, but it's like,
Yeah.
um, there's some really weird like savior complex thing with like people that go to Africa. It's such a, and I've read really interesting articles about like some of the like real terrible people that go over there, and like again, it's almost like the whole Wendy thing where they like sort of wrap themselves in this, trying to like look like a really good person when in reality they're like rotten to the core. It's so
Yeah.
crazy. It's like the people that like want to go, I don't know. It's like such a naive instinct, I think, on some level. It's like for people that really haven't been hit in the face by the world to think that like I'm going to go over to Africa and make a big difference. And I'm not saying that like that sort of thing isn't,
Doesn't
there,
happen. It
yeah,
does.
yeah, there's lots of, good
Good.
people that do
Yeah.
good works, but it's like there's just a certain segment of that thing that they're like, I don't know, they're like a wolf in sheep's clothing or something.
Absolutely. And this pisses me off so much. The hypocrisy that people live in. So I'm sure that there are people that go there and help and everything, and they are good in their hearts, and the purpose of doing it is for the greater good and not for
Yep.
something malignant. But I'm sure that this is one of the, what do they call it? White savior.
Yep. White savior complex.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sure this is one of them. Oh my God. The guy is like typical. I don't know what to call him, but like everything about him says that he's, I don't know. I'm enjoying all the Africa missions and Pastor Jumba. And all the pastors' wives are so excited for what we're doing. We expect 120 kids our first semester. Why are you telling her all of this when you are that disgusted of her? I have about 10 to 12 people going this time, including Kristen and Tom Winslow and Becca and Jonathan, etc. And I need to move on as soon as possible. I need a woman who would respect me and love me and be worthy of all that being a first lady is about. Oh my God, why is he saying first lady?
Well, that's like the term, like, you know, for like the president's wife, right? The
I
first
know,
lady.
but
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
it's
why is
yeah,
he using it?
it's
Does he think of
his
himself as?
self-image. Yes, I think, right? He thinks of himself as like such an important dude that, like, you know, you're gonna be my number two. I don't know. That
Yeah,
is such a
that's
wild framing.
first lady. He mentioned it twice. First
Twice.
lady. Oh
Yep.
my God. G-
Can't even
What a
write it off as
lifestyle. What
a
is this?
mistake. Yeah.
And also, what did I want to say about this?
Mm.
I had the
Yeah.
amazing desire to have kids. Yeah, say,
Oh, I
Leah.
was just gonna say, this really makes me want to make a video on this case because it's a fascinating. There's a fascinating issues to explore. You know.
Yeah, it is a very, my God, it's gonna be, I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, terrible person, terrible person. Okay, what else? What else? Let's see some comments.
Oh, Carol had a comment about her brother being a youth pastor. That's interesting.
Which one? Let me see. Which
Oh,
one?
it's I'm kind of scrolled up a bit, but Carol had a comment where she says let's see, he says she was in North Carolina, but her memorial is at the rock bottom in Myrtle Beach. Oh wait, no, it's actually down a little bit. It's tragic, and my brother was a youth pastor. He is no longer. Yeah, it's a couple down, I think, from there. He's a man of God. When he told me about their dog dying, he made sure I was sitting down. So, yeah, I mean, I would say the thing that I thought was interesting, Carol, is you mentioned that he had your sister, your brother had some sort of passing acquaintance, or he ran into Lil Wayne when Lil Wayne was having his seizure problems. Lil Wayne is a rapper who's one of the great rappers of all time, and that's interesting that he was there for. Lil Wayne had an episode where he had seizures and almost died, and I think Carol is saying that her brother may have had some involvement in that. It's interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. She was a paranoid schizophrenic, therefore doing things that would make you question your sanity. He's gonna get caught. Trust me, don't mock life. That's what I want. I want him to get caught. Jennifer Ray, the power and control wheel had 8 aspects, all of which are detrimental on their own, but abusers use several of them depending upon the type of abuser.
I think what True Crime Wife he's referencing here is there's like a visual that's used in you know, for a lot of people that work in domestic violence, and it's like a literal wheel of power control with like these 8 different panels that describe parts of the soup of power and control. It's a very effective visual that you'll see in like a lot of domestic violence education material.
Power
Yeah.
and control wheel. Yeah, I see it now. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept.
Oh, nice. Okay, nice. I like that. Let's see it.
It helped a lot for me to understand it, because I worked with you know, I worked on like thousands of criminal cases, so I've worked on like literally hundreds and hundreds of domestic violence cases, and it's like, yep, that's exact one. Yep.
So it's like physical violence, sexual, and then it goes down to
Intimidation, emotional abuse, isolation. All these are hallmarks. Isolating. I mean, that's all. Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you read this, it like makes so much sense. I think if you've ever seen it up close, especially, you know,
yeah,
children. Yeah. Anyway.
using male privilege, of course.
Yeah.
The first lady, minimizing, denying, and blaming. Of course,
Yes.
he did that.
Yeah.
Minimize. He blamed her for so many things, like she
Mhm.
wouldn't take her meds, and I mean, using
You know, it'd
isolation.
be a good video idea for you
Yeah,
to go through the wheel of power and control in this
right.
case and use examples for each one, because
Yeah,
you just did a great one for the male privilege one. I mean, you just nailed that one, but you know, if you do find 7 more examples for the other
I can.
yeah, I'm sure you can. I mean, each one of them, there's like tons of examples in this case, I'm
Exactly.
sure. Yep.
You don't have to look so much with this
But this
guy.
is like it has like all of the hallmarks. And so even if you don't touch all 8 pieces of the wheel, like I'm sure you'll easily get 6 or 7, you know?
Yeah,
So
that's
I
right.
just looking at these, I think it's got to be all 8, you know, because I'm not sure about the economic abuse, but coercion and threats, intimidation, emotional abuse, isolation, male privilege, children, the stepchildren maybe, so that's questionable. Minimizing, denying, blaming, yes. So like 6 out of 8 for sure, and the other 2 like we have a question mark, but probably, you know.
Yeah, children only because they don't have their own children.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
his children, and she was their stepmom, but we don't know the relationship. How was it with them?
Exactly, but he could have easily used them to be like, you need to be here for any number of different ways, you know.
Yeah, there's so
Or
many different ways of using your kids for, yeah, absolutely. But man, I can't wait for more information about this case. I'm very intrigued,
yeah,
and of course, I'm praying for her family
yeah.
to I don't know. It's very hard. It's very hard. I hope that justice will eventually happen to Micah, and I think we're gonna cover this case more in the upcoming days, right?
I think so. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm kind of hooked now. I need to kind of unpack some stuff because I just I see a lot of really interesting footage that I think you can make some interesting content with, and hopefully try to you know, act as like a countervailing force against, you know, the negative of this case by trying to again find a lesson in it, you know, trying to find
yeah,
something positive to bring out of this tragedy, you know.
yeah. That's right.